get that, but we talk about, I mean, not just the norms, but say you talk about the 5 bedroom versus the 2 bedroom. What about the 5 bedroom in, the nice part of the area, and then the mom has a 1 bedroom apartment, rat infested on Section 8, and so you're literally saying that you're okay with that kid splitting and going 2 weeks in this nice house and then going back to the PJs for 2 weeks just because you don't want him paying child support. I don't, and so that's usually the times that the court's like, no, you're still going to pay child support, right?
Well, even without that extreme example, I don't think I like 50-50. I like.
What up, what up, what up, what up? It's Three Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. I'm Ferg. I'm just Ferg. Plain old Ferg. Everybody's favorite bad guy. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I got my co-host Buff and Rozzy here. Fellas, what it do?
That's cap that you're everybody's favorite bad guy, because you're not the bad guy. So I got quite a bit. So we got these tariffs on and off. We got possible inflation. Eggs are pretty expensive. A lot of things are more costly. You can't even go get a regular Tahoe for less than 60 grand nowadays. So with everything rising, the thing that still is free is shutting the up. And Kevin Gates didn't get that memo. And so I got to call him out because I gave him props a couple of years ago when he made himself vulnerable and said how he was depressed and all that stuff. And, he was crying. He damn near wanted to commit suicide. And just for him sharing and revealing that, I gave him his props because we talk about mental health a lot on this show. But, he goes on whatever he went on. I know it's been shared on all social media platforms. But he criticizes LeBron James' wife. And to me, he kind of he took a swipe at two different groups. He took a swipe at Savannah James, and he took a swipe at black women to me. But, he says that he feels bad for LeBron because Savannah doesn't look at him like white women. And he wants Savannah to look at him like, he's like, you ever seen how the white women look at LeBron? Like, that's how she needs to look at him. And then he got into her looks a little bit and compared her to somebody just very disrespectful. And, he could have just easily just kind of not said all that stuff, man. So I thought that was a little unnecessary. And then, of course, people making a big deal because he went to the game and LeBron didn't pull up on him like he did Stephen A. Smith. So you can make of that or what you will. But I just thought it was kind of bit tasteless for him to do that. And the reason why I say it's a swipe at black women, because, listen, if you want to make that stupid comment, listen, there are plenty of famous videos of Beyonce looking at LeBron in a very lovingly way while she's sitting next to Jay-Z courtside. He could have said, I'd like for his wife to look at him like some of those famous Beyonce clips of how she looked at him. But he kind of put it all on black women and said that, pretty much alluded to they're not appreciative of it. So didn't like that. But some positive news. The NFL draft was yesterday. The first day of the draft was yesterday. And we kind of talked about this in our chat. But it was kind of cool, as someone who's watched the draft over the years, it was kind of cool to see a lot of involved fathers. And the three of us, we know that statistically, black fathers are the most involved in kids' lives. But that's not what we see in media and entertainment. That's not what we see a lot. So it was cool to actually see it and see that not only these fathers are in these young players' lives, but they've been there all along. And in some cases, they started them in the sport and they helped train them to get to where they are. So that's just a small thing. Like, we black men, we're always looking for positive images of us because we feel like, especially Ferg in your circle, Rozzy in your circle, my circle, I know plenty of positive black people, black men rather, and it's just cool to actually see it and know that millions of other people are actually seeing it. And last but not least, y'all boy Elon Musk is stepping back. He's stepping back from Doge after them Tesla number came out. Tesla dropped
And
like 71%.
yeah,
9% revenue compared to 2024. So basically, like Governor Tim Walz said, I forgot exactly how he worded it, but he was like, Elon Musk has spent all this time trying to take y'all money. Now he's leaving because he's losing this money. He want to try to go get that back.
Yeah. And don't forget that, with his Doge, he like cut a bunch of people who were investigating him, right? So a lot of the folks that got doged we're investigating Starlink, we're investigating SpaceX, we're investigating Tesla. And so he went in, he cut all those folks, and then said, okay, I'm done now that I'm not getting sued anymore, I'm not getting investigated anymore, I'm good, I can go.
He's still going to be
that was a
involved
really good investment too. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, that's power. Yeah. Got anything else, Buff?
Nah, that's it, man. That's all I got.
All right, cool. A few things that I got. Gate round 2. I don't know if we had a chance to talk about that. Y'all Sec Def, Pete Hegseth, did it again. So he he came out and decided that he wanted to tell his wife, son, lawyer, and everybody else about more war plans. And they're denying it. I don't get they're like how they just say, you know what, you don't believe what you're hearing and seeing and everything else, that didn't happen, and they just keep rolling with it, like deny until you die. So but there's all kind of reports people are saying that he's probably about to step down, or he's going to have to, because the Pentagon is in shambles, it's going crazy over there. It's almost like a coup, like people are just not listening to him because he's just so far out there with the stuff. Courts have come back and said that he had to pay for transgender therapy and everything, so he can't do anything about that. So they're losing all around, but I'm ready for him to go. The Pentagon, the military is too important to the United States, to our security, for us to have somebody in there that just does not understand what it means to actually run the military, right? There's one thing to have all these ideas about, oh, well, we need war fighters, and women can't be in, he actually said it, right? Women shouldn't be in combat situations, and they shouldn't be in combat arms and all those things. And we just had a woman passed the best ranger competition. She ranked 14 out of 52 best ranger partners. So obviously they can do it. That's one of the hardest competitions in the military, and she completed it, right? And so this idea that just because you're a female, you can't do the standards. They might not be able to do everything, and I think that's what folks have to understand. There are going to be women out there that can do it. Those are the ones that should be in those roles, right? I'm not saying lower the requirements for, the Rangers and that type of thing, but there are women out there that can do it. I mean, we were talking about fighting women, or women hitting us, and whether we're going to hit them back and everything. And I was like, look, there are women that are 2 times my size. So you're saying I can't hit a woman that's 2 times my size back? That makes no sense. So there are women out there that can do everything that the guys can do, and they can do everything that is required of those roles. And I think they should be able to go into those roles no matter what. It doesn't weaken the fighting force based on that. So long rant about the military, about him starting out with Signalgate. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And secondly, the FDA. I posted on my social media, the FDA, they laid off a bunch of folks. They got doged and all that. We were talking about Elon just a second ago. And all of a sudden, they're hiring contractors to fill in the positions of the people that they laid off. So for folks out there that don't understand, contractors cost more than full-time employees. So again, there was almost no cost savings whatsoever. All they're doing is privatizing the workforce.
They had to walk back. So he originally said that they were going to be able to cut $1 trillion. It's going to be close.
Yeah, initially it was 2, then they walked it back to $1 trillion. Yep.
It's going to be closer to 150 billion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is a drop in the bucket in when you talk about the what is it, 18 trillion that we have.
Just like 150 billion sounds like a lot. Just think of that scene on I Think I Love My Wife with Chris Rock, when his boss is like, you brought in $30 million. Would you say that's a lot? No, you see, you can say it, it's a lot. He was like, but this company is worth 20 billion. And he pulled out a quarter and put it on this big ass conference table. He said, this is what you brought in. And he put it at the table. He's like, compared to the table, that's how much you like. You know what I mean? Like 150 billion. That's how much it's worth when you talk about the total budget and you compare it to $2 trillion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost inconceivable. Like most people don't understand how much a trillion is versus a billion versus a million. People think a million's a lot of money. When you talk about it's not a simple jump to go from a million to a billion. That's 999 million more dollars, right? 999,999,999 more dollars to get to a
Or
billion.
1,000 millions.
Yeah.
You have to become a millionaire 1,000 times. And then
Yeah.
you have to become a billionaire 1,000 times to become a trillionaire. That's, you know.
Yeah. That's it's like I said, it's inconceivable. It makes no sense for most people. And so, but because they can't think through how big of a difference that is, they think that $150 billion savings is huge when it's really not. All he did, like we talked about just a second ago, during the break, is all he really did was got the government off his back. So all the research, all the lawsuits, everything like that, he got them off his back, and then he dipped out. Yeah. So anyway, so that and one other thing with the FDA. So after they laid off all these people and they're trying to find contractors to replace them, they decided to not tell us what companies are giving us E. coli. So in Avon, Indiana, they had a kid die and 88 other people infected with E. coli. They had an E. coli outbreak. And for some reason, the FDA won't tell us what company caused the outbreak because they don't want to hurt the company. So they're not even doing a recall or anything like that. They're just like, y'all will be all right. And so that's what we're dealing with this administration, with just the leadership that we put in place is we're not getting information. Health and Human Services have shut down a lot of sites that people can get information. FDA isn't doing their job. They've cut a bunch of people. They are not doing their inspections. They actually fired all of the, which is the weirdest thing in the world to me, but they fired all of the cruise ship like inspectors. Now, the government doesn't even pay for the cruise ship inspectors. The cruise ship companies literally pay the government so that they can have these inspectors, so that they can make sure that all cruise ships are safe and sanitary and everything else. The government actually decided, no, we still don't want to do it, even though we don't pay for them. And so they got doged. And so now you guys are a little bit less safe on your cruises because no reason other than they just don't want to do it. So that's y'all government. And with that, I just hope that you guys have the day that you voted for.
I like that saying, by the way. I'm about to get a shirt with that.
I like it. I'll make one and give it out. That's all I got for it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys holding it down. I had to jump off for a sec. I don't know what my computer got dozed or something. I don't know if it got laid off or I don't know whatever happened. Seemed like you guys were taking a lot of the high road. So I don't know what I missed. Did we talk about cousin?
Nah.
Yaden did it again.
Buff did talk about keeping your mouth shut. That is somebody that should have kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, so Kanye West, for you guys that don't know, dropped an album, a new track earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Called Cousin, where I haven't even listened to the track because the tweet alone had me like, why are we here? But essentially, he talks about his young life. And so there's a tweet that comes with it. So it says, this song is called Cousins, about my cousin that's locked in jail for life for killing a pregnant lady a few years after I told him we wouldn't look at dirty magazines together anymore. Perhaps in my self-centered mess, I felt it was my fault that I showed him those dirty magazines when he was 6, and then we acted out what we saw. My dad had Playboy magazines, but the magazines I found at the top of my mom's closet were different. My name is Ye, and I can't even say this out loud. And I quote, Kanye says, my name is Ye, and I sucked my cousin till I was 14.
Why? Why do you feel the need to say that? And me and Leah were having a conversation about that, and I brought up, I'm just like, it's no different. She was like, why does he feel like he needs to put that on social media and put it out there? And I was like, is it much different than somebody going up and at church and giving a testimony and saying, here's my truth or whatever. I've been delivered from that. I'm not doing that anymore. I like women's. I don't like men's. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference in him doing that or saying this and
I think there's a lot of difference.
going to
One is there's a platform for that. Like that's what that going up to the church. Like when you say going up in front of the church, that's what that's for, right? This is what you're supposed to do. I can say happy birthday on Facebook, right? And then also they're doing that to put it out there and supposed to be delivered, right? They're turning their back on that way of life. I mean, is he turning his back on that way of life, or he just reminding us that he's been 30 years sober of not sucking his cousin's dick? I don't know what the point of that was, right? To me, it's just a you can tell I tell my life story sometimes to the kids so they can understand and we can connect, right? So they understand where I come from. Do I have to tell them all the things? I tell that so we can connect. I don't know who the hell he was trying to connect with or what his point was, but maybe there's an audience for it. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to open up Pandora's box. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's
you
different.
never know. It might be a lot of second cousins out there that, was like, me too, Rie, me too.
I haven't seen those posts, those tweets yet, so but I'm also not on X, so maybe. But I don't know. It's just it's another one of those things where it's back to Buff. It's free just not to say anything. I think that was it. It's just and I don't even know where he's gonna. I can see him coming back. That was just a seed, and Yaya try to flip it on us and make us seem like we're the bad guys. We're the ones out of touch.
His defenders should certainly do that.
I want to see him to defend this. I haven't seen a defense on this one yet.
I haven't seen.
I don't think they figured that one out yet. There's no. I don't know how you gaslight this one. And it's just like, and if he, and it's not to judge. If you were young, you were experiencing. I don't know whatever it is, because I mean, there's so many layers to it. I haven't listened to the song. Was he molesting his cousin? I don't know all the details, right? But I don't know. I don't know the purpose of this. I don't know what was come off this. And then another one, damn. Shannon Sharp is the talk of many conversations and many groups, and it's one of those things where I don't know what to say. Right? It's easy to judge the optics of a lot of things. There's things that I don't even beyond the sexual accusations, which if they're true, I hope he gets what's coming from him. I always want to start with that. Like if you're, if you did the crime, do the time, right? Whatever comes with it. But the fact that there was a 34-year age gap between them, there's a lot of optics that just don't look good and things that you can try to avoid. I mean, people make their own decisions, and I'm not here to judge morally of those decisions. I mean, I will say I do judge like the letter of the law. Like if you sexually assaulting people and doing that kind of stuff, that's wrong. But it's just damn Unc. And now you got people quoting Monique, and I hate that.
Well, what I'll say, and not even on the age thing, I just have a problem with him, or I take issue with him just breaking all kind of man law. Like the rules of the game was just super just thrown out of the window with all of this. Like she was a thought, she was just to be tricking off. Like she asking for money for sex, right? 25,000 a cheek, this, that, and other. She's doing things that lets you know she's in it for the money. And somehow Shannon felt like he needed to sweet talk her and make her feel like she had a chance and this, that, and the other, and or he just fell in love. He fell in love with the stripper, as T-Pain says. Either way it goes, the game he played himself because the game got
I didn't get that. I didn't get that. Maybe you saw more than I did, but looking at the text messages, I didn't see a man that was in love or had any illusions of what it was.
I think he was probably overly confident. let's say,
like because she sent a lot of unanswered text messages from him, especially after his Michelle IG live happened. You know, she was like, "I need you to apologize to me." Apologize. He was like, "Look, Gabrielle, I told you my bad or whatever. I got stuff to do now." You know what I mean? So it just, and you know, her asking for his, I'm not gonna even say
Big Black Baby.
it. No, his baby gravy.
Baby.
She wanted him to put a big black linebacker in her and all that kind of stuff, man. So I don't know. I didn't see somebody that was. I saw somebody that knew what it was. You know, he likes young women apparently. You know, it was transactional. He gave her whatever money he gave her. She broke him off whenever.
Yeah, I mean, my only thing is, I think you're giving not necessarily him, but I think you're giving men too much credit. Like that man line, niggas fall for hoes every day, b. Like niggas simp every day, right? So that's what you were describing when somebody to me simping, and I'm like, dudes, that goes the beginning of time, and that's not going anywhere, right? And so it is what it is.
But we call them out when they simp, and that's what I felt like he was doing. I felt like he really got in his feelings with her and gave her hope that, you know, oh, if we still together on your birthday, you can take your IUD out. Maybe I'll give you that baby. Like all of that, apologizing, right? If it was transactional, you don't have to apologize about having that.
I don't know if she make your toes curl a certain way.
Side chicks get a little bit.
You might throw an apology out there to keep it going.
Yeah, and I think once again, sexual assault is wrong. But I think for him, it was one of those things where he got too confident. Where, how the hell this little young chick gonna game me? I'm up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and thinking, I think that's how a lot of people go for it. That I'm different. Those things can't happen to me. I think that happens so many times when we look at the story of like, how did he fall for that, or how did she fall for that? People give themselves too much credit and don't think those things can happen to them. And it's like, no, buddy, just like all these basketball players and everybody going forward with getting, you know, after 2-3 basketball players get a chick pregnant and they get put on crazy child support, you think that would be enough for them to realize, like, okay, let me get my tubes tied until I get married. Something, you know.
Keep in mind, Shannon is the most famous and the most wealthiest he's ever been in his life. Yeah, he played football and he was a top tight end, but his NFL contracts, I don't think they compare to what he made at Fox Sports and what he's getting paid at ESPN, and it's reportedly $100 million. So this is still relatively. This is
The
kind of
fame
relatively
too,
new. The access
and the
he
fame,
had.
the celebrity
Yeah.
around it, right?
He was
like
the average.
He was an athlete. He was an average athlete, or you know, a superstar athlete, but he wasn't a superstar. He wasn't a Dion or somebody like that was on camera all the time talking and everything else. So it's different.
The best. He's probably more recognizable now than the best tight end in the game. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Travis Kelce, everybody like Travis Kelce is this huge tight end. Like everybody knows the name, whatever. And he's probably became more famous through his relationship with Taylor Swift. But if Travis Kelce walked into a regular building, chicks would know him. These little 20-year-old white chicks know Shannon Sharpe. I mean, he's arguably one of the most popular black athletic celebrities in the last 2 to 3 years. And so, all right. I mean, Unc, whatever. Hey, man, we'll see. You got Monique looking at it.
And truthfully, I'm not even gonna lie. I make fun of it or I make light of it because I don't believe it. It's one that I don't believe. And so I think that makes it a little easier for us to kind of make light of it because it's one that, you know, role play is role play. And it's hard to know a lot of times with that unless you give me the code word. I don't know when we in character and when we not in character, and so it's really easy to slip into that character, and then after the fact you be like, oh, I went into it this time. You gotta let me know. Okay. You gotta, you know, I'm not talking from experience.
Let's keep this conversation going then. Let's go ahead and jump into the show. I know Sophie's in. We got a timeline. I had another question, but we've had similar conversations around things like this, but because I'm in groups and you have different mindsets. You have people who are like, you know, it hasn't been proven guilty. And then you're like, hey, you know, you got to protect her and all this stuff. You got to, when it comes to double standards, we know there's double standards in the world, But do we need to be more careful when it comes to double standards when it comes to law, especially when it comes to sexes? So we look at things like this: sexual assault, sexual accusations, and then we've talked about it several times with reproductive rights, like with the mother and the father and child support and all these things where, you know, do we need to work on those things? Do you think we would be in a better place if we had stricter, more even kill laws on these type battle of the sexist crimes? I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're basically saying if we had stricter laws, would it be
You're
better,
like,
right? Like those type of things.
you have a lot of people. If you, like you said, if you, I don't believe it happened. You can get a lot of hate from that. You get a lot of backlash. You can get canceled for that. Well, women don't lie about that type. Like it's. But you can have somebody say that, right? And you can't really. And when you go and argue on the facts, like, well, making up an arbitrary number, 33% of sexual assault cases have been found to be false. Oh, that's man's, like, you can easily be attacked versus like, okay, when this happens, how should we handle this? Do we believe him? Do we believe her? Do we, what needs to happen? People lose it. He's on suspension, right? Like, people lose jobs, people lose income. What is the ramification or protections of both parties? If it's true, she deserves her day in court. She deserves to be, the law should protect her and give her what is due to her. I don't know if it's $10 million. I don't know what it is, but same with child support. A woman lies about birth status and whatever. Should she be? There's some states where men, no matter if the woman lied or not, can be held on child support because you know they're going to do what's in best interest of the child, no matter what happens. Like, how do we navigate that world? And I think that battle of sex, there's so many things like that if we don't have enough things that separate the sexes, here's just another one of these things where, you got men probably on one side for the most part and women on the other side.
So let me speak to this specifically. So she's not even asking for her day in court. So this isn't even about the law. She asking for money.
Mm-hmm.
So this ain't even about law. This is just about money. And so, like Razi, just to continue what Razi said about not believing her, I like what you said at the beginning. Obviously, if he's guilty of the sexual assault, well, I shouldn't even say guilty, but if it's found that he did commit sexual assault, then yeah, he should have to pay up because you shouldn't be doing that. It doesn't matter if that's who you've been smashing for 2 years straight. The moment she says no
Yep.
and don't do it, that's when you got to stop. Point blank, period. No excuses. But I don't believe her because, one, of who her lawyer is. Her lawyer is Tony Busby, and just looking at what he tried to do with Jay-Z, I don't trust that dude right there. And then just looking at the way they talked and everything, and how they submitted this edited video or audio, is very edited to make Shannon look like he is committing this assault. If you're gonna do that, release the whole thing. Now, in general, what it sounds like to me, and let me just say on the front end, there's never going to be a perfect system. There's always going to get people that get unfairly punished, unfairly not have justice taking place for them when they are a real victim. So there's no perfect system. But I think for the most part, Ferg, we just need more on the repercussion side. So when a woman falls, like this woman, I just brought up Jay-Z, she knew, and Tony Busby knew that her story was trash that she tried to allege against Jay-Z. But they went forward with it anyway, far enough to where headlines came out and his family and everything has to see that and deal with that, and he has to speak out and fight against that. They eventually dropped it, but a lot of the damage was done. There's got to be some get back for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there needs to be more on the repercussion side. Like I think you mentioned a woman lying about
Paternity.
being pregnant with somebody's paternity. There needs to be punishment on that. When you do that type of stuff,
Pay that child support back with interest. Like that's your all that.
All of that. Or hell, even jail time. They're putting men
We're not
in
paying
jail.
child.
And listen, we know there are some dirtbags. We get that. But there are some men that genuinely cannot find a job or cannot keep up with paying the child support and having a reasonable living condition for themselves, and they can still get put in jail. So it's just got to be what's good with the goose a lot of times. And these sexual assault cases, I hate them so much, and I know most women want you to believe women off the jump and automatically side with them, but I have to disagree with that because I wholeheartedly believe that men should be punished for sexually assaulting a woman. Because I wholeheartedly believe that, with that same passion, I hate women who lie on men to do that because they're upset, because they're jealous about something that happened.
Or
I
there's an
hate that. And there has to be
or
some
there's
payback.
they're opportunistic, right? And we're not here to
Yes,
we're not here
that.
to
Yes,
demonize
yes.
women or men. It's just like, how do you get to the crux of it? How do you change it? I mean, we look at I still don't know what happened with Jonathan Majors, right? Like, I still don't know all the details, but that man was on top of the world for a minute. And, before he even had his day in court, he lost it all, right? She could have came back 2 weeks later, like, you know what? I was mad, yada yada yada. Maybe she would have did some,
She
but
did.
but the
She dropped.
law, but maybe she would have did some community service, whatever it is. That man lost millions, right? And even when who was about to have him on her show a few weeks ago, Kiki Palmer, there was backlash on, like, it's like the dude was acquitted. I mean, not acquitted, but like
Yeah, she dropped the case, and basically it was like, look,
The baby daddy.
no, she was gonna have Jonathan Majors on her show a few weeks ago,
She did the
and
interview. She did the interview, but she pulled the
never
interview.
released it because she
They
got a
never released
lot
it.
of
Yep.
backlash because her fans were saying, "How can you support this guy who's a woman beater and all the?" Even though he was proven, like, it's one of my thing. One of my biggest fears is always being falsely accused of something. Because there's the fact that the court might mess around and find you guilty, right? Or even just in the long run, going through it, how do you bounce back from that? Like, how do the court of public opinion, cancel court, freaking has a lot of power to affect the rest of your lives.
Yeah. I'll say this though. I'll say I don't think we need harsher penalties or anything like that, or like you say, stronger laws. I think the laws are there. It's and
For the accuser or
I
the
think we
accuser or the
give
accused. There's
the accused or the guilty
the
party,
accuser
right? If they're found
the
guilty, I think
accuser has
it's there.
there's little to no repercussion.
That you can countersue. You can countersue for libel, right? Like you can do
She don't got
that.
10
It's just
million.
most times
She
they
don't got
don't.
10 million.
Exactly. They don't have anything to get back at. So, and you can't make it criminal to do that, right? It's civil. And that's generally why you don't see any type of like, oh, you're going to jail or anything like that. Are you saying you want to make that criminal? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. You want to make it criminal to falsely accuse somebody of rape?
It's criminal to lie to the police. It's criminal to file a false report.
To lie on perjury, just lie on the stand. It's all these things, right?
Yeah.
But then
and so you're saying start like DAs going to start. You know a DA will never get reelected if they do that one time and they go after some woman because she falsely accused this millionaire of doing something.
I don't know if it's clear that she lied. Then yeah, because he would have support. I think he would have support.
It has to be the perfect. It has to be the perfect situation. Accountability is not fair, right? It's the thing about it is we can all agree that if he's guilty, he should be punished. The accused should always be punished. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? We can all agree on that.
If found guilty. Yep. The guilty party.
The accused, not even the guilty party. Because the guilt.
Well, I'm not gonna say the accused. The accused should be punished because the thing is, if they're innocent, I don't.
No.
Them
what I'm saying,
punished, right?
if the accused is found guilty, because the guilty party could be the accuser for perjury, for all these things. Now they're the guilty party, but there's no. My whole point is there are penalties for the accused. There's very rarely any penalties for the accuser. It takes a lot, and then usually the accused just wants to get this over with. That's why sometimes people just settle, right? And sometimes we assume settling is
admission of guilt, and that's why they say usually it's like this is not admission.
I don't want to I just need to move on my life, right?
It's cheaper for me to pay you 10 million than to pay a lawyer 10.5 million to try to get out of it
and then
and
lose
pull this
money
out
and
for
all the
15
stuff.
years.
Lose
Yeah,
your contract.
that's a lot of times in HR and in HR. A lot of times we just go ahead and settle because we're like, oh, you're asking for $10,000. It's going to cost. My retainer is more than that with my lawyer, right? Like I'm not like from a corporate standpoint. We're like we'll stroke a check for 10 G's because it's cheaper than actually going to court. So like people work that system all the time. But what I want to say is you guys brought it up, right? There's libel, there's penalty for perjury, there's lying to the police, there's laws on the books for it. I just think we need to hold them accountable and we need to actually do that, right? But I don't think it needs to be harsher or not harsher, but I don't think we need new laws or anything like that. I think we just need somebody to say we're going to enforce these laws that are on the books based on that.
So
And when you go
so
ahead.
maybe because certain things like, and maybe I'm ignorant of the law, but maybe I watch enough police shows where, if a police comes up to like a domestic dispute situation and they witness it and there's reason to believe, even if she doesn't want to file a case, they have reason to believe and they can file a case, right? They can, maybe that should be an automatic. Like, you did this, it's not up to Razi to countersue. It's not up to Razi to put this case on you. Perjury, yada. Hey, innocent. By the way, bailiff, take her with you because now she's going to jail for perjury.
To get in
Yeah, yeah.
process.
Like it needs to be automatic. The backlash is going to be like, well, it's going to stop women from coming out because that's always what it is. Like it's a protection of you want to protect the victim. And
Right. And there's a difference of, hey, I felt I got raped. I felt this, and when everything comes out, they're like, it's not bad enough, right? Like it looked like consent. He didn't understand that you had withdrawn consent, right? That type of thing. There's those instances where it's not necessarily a lie. Both people are telling the truth, and it just like the jury is just like, it's not strong enough. We're not going to give him a rape charge for this, right? There's those instances, but those instances where he wasn't even there, or what I'm saying, y'all on camera, you said that he hit you, it's a domestic violence, he said he hit you and we got it on camera and he didn't touch you. Like the Karens that go in and be like, oh, I slip and fell, and or oh, he's attacking me. Like nothing happened to those folks when that happens and they have it on camera. Like, what are you talking about? You called the police on me and I got you on camera. I never touched you, right? Those people need to go just like this. They need to be put in jail or at least charged with those types of things as well. And I think that's kind of where you're at with it. I will say though, I want to kind of get a little bit to the who should we believe, and really when I talk about that, there's gray. Everybody wants a hard, fast, binary. Oh, you should always, take the side of the accuser. You should always take the side or defend the person. They're guilty until prison or innocent until proven guilty. But ultimately, it's okay. What are the facts right now? Right, and that's how I'm going to look at it. I think we give the accuser, we give women the benefit of the doubt 99% of the time, right? We're going to believe them if it's anywhere near believable. But things like this where you're like, that just sounds weird, right? Like, yeah, this looks like you're looking for a bag. And so at those points, we're going to believe the accused a little bit more. We're going to lean towards that. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to make the assumptions based off of the
but your
information that you have.
assumption can be damning because you can still.
It can. I'm not on the
But the
jury.
thing about it is, it's the fact that not even the fact that you could lose somebody. Somebody could send something to your company today, Razi, anonymously. You could be fired. You could possibly lose your kids. There's things that could happen just because of that. Family can turn on you. All these things just because they can come out with a great story. My thing is, we the facts are the facts, really the facts, right? Like, it's stories, spin. What is, I want to say fair, but that's such a
It's
unrealistic.
simple, yeah. But there are going to be facts, and you got to be able to make that case. And unfortunately, that's law in general, or that's society in general. You can always accuse somebody. She's a witch, right? It's the
A
Salem
bunch
witch
of
trials.
bitches.
It happens, right? So
It happens. People were
there's
killed,
always.
Razi. They were
I
boiled.
know.
They were
I'm just saying.
stoned. They were drowned.
That's what I mean. There's always going to be that. There's always going to be people falsely accusing other people and everything like that. you can't police that, right? You, no matter how many laws you put in place, there's always going to be something where somebody falsely accuses somebody of it. And so I don't want to get to where now I think I can't remember who said it. It's like I don't want to come forward because if there's an inkling of where he might be innocent, I'm not going to come forward and accuse my rapist because I might end up in prison because I accuse my rapist, right?
And so to be clear, I'm not saying that just because a woman loses her case when she brings charges on someone, or I shouldn't even say a woman, just because a victim loses their case because they bring charges on somebody, that they're automatically available to be sued for. I'm talking about
The
like,
egregious, like
like
yeah,
like the knowingly.
Yeah, but I'm like, when we're talking about adults, it's so many things that when we talk about I guess these cases and things that are battle of the sexes, we're talking about, we're talking about any sexual things. We talk about when you have kids involved. We're talking about domestic violence, right? It's the fact that it's so many things that lean one way, and maybe there's going to be a rough patch, right? Maybe there's a rough patch to write it to, like, okay, now you understand once you put your hands on him, y'all are both of y'all are going to jail, or no one is going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, once if a child is born out of wedlock, it's a mandatory paternity test. Like, are these things that we need to potentially implement, to
I do feel like a child
like
support
mandatory
paternity test when you go for child support.
Yeah,
That's part of child support court.
not even child, because for child support, if you want child support,
If you want child support, it's a mandatory.
but think about it,
paternity.
even if it was one of our kids, and the fact was, even the paternity test might not save you, right? Because
if you sign the
birth certificate, you've been taking care of the kids for this long. We got to do what's best for the kids. Like, by default, certain states do that, where it's, we know you ain't the dad, but you've been taking care of this, because there's stepdads that are put on child support for kids that aren't theirs.
Yep.
Well, you've been taking care of little Johnny since he was 4. Now he's 15. He's getting ready to go to college soon, and yada yada. He plays football and does all these things. You footed a bill. We're not going to take Johnny out of football. We're not going to take Johnny out of this. So you need to figure it out. So how do we protect it? And I mean, there's some cases for women too, with alimony and all those things. It's like, I think we need to make sure people know the repercussions of their actions. Like, if it's just, even with who we were just talking about, the basketball player a few weeks ago, Anthony Edwards, right? If he could sign his paternal rights, which gets him out of child support, would she have had that baby? Maybe she would. And if she would, that means she's that devout into her beliefs and whatever it is. I'm not even talking about religion, that she's going to have that baby no matter what, because that's what she decided to do. Versus, I know this father's not going to be in this child's life. It's up to me to make this decision. And if I make the decision, it's going to be up to me. And maybe there's a lump sum. Maybe you just max out at, like, okay, it's a $10,000 fee. Whatever it is, to file this, you got to do this or whatever. But
yeah, it's like opting out it's like lower than child support, right? So it's like I'm opting out for the minimum.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be
it sounds bad, but it's because people know how. Let's be honest, people know how to work the system, and the bad have messed it up for the people who really need it and deserve it. Right? It's the situations where the false accused, I think it was some crazy number of how many paternity tests are actually fail. Like, it's a lot,
like
false like it's like, that ain't your baby. I'll look it up, but we can go to the next question. I'm gonna find that information.
Cool. Did you have some buff or?
I got one, but I was, you went last week.
Okay.
And it was like a rush question, so
yeah. Now I don't know if we're gonna get 3 in, so I wanted to see. But I want to kind of, I guess, stay on like this family court thing and everything. I saw that Tyrese, his daughter, she turned 18 and she decided to move in with him and leave her mom. And by doing that, her mom was getting $10,000 a month in child support, and it got cut off. because she ended up moving in with Tyrese. And so what I want to know is, should the kids or should men start getting the like custody of the kids more often, especially if they are the ones that are going to be providing like the largest amount of the child support?
Yes.
I think that is a very good. I think it's gonna take. It's one of those things where it's not gonna look good in the beginning. It's gonna take
Mhm.
some time. It's gonna stop men from going around just leaving their seat. It's gonna stop the few women who count on not all the women that count on kids as a check.
Are you saying that it should automatically go to the father, or should father have a better leg up in court in saying I want full custody of the child?
Yeah, that's what I'm not saying
Okay.
automatic. What I'm saying is, hey, we're talking custody right now, and the father said, and they say, hey, it's gonna be $1,500 a month in child support, and the father be like, well, I'd rather take the kid than pay 1,500. She ain't even got to pay me child support, or she can pay $300, $400, but I'd rather take the kid than pay the $1,500 a month. And I feel like in
It
the
should be.
court at that time, it should shift to where now the mom has to start fighting to try to keep the baby, because too often it's like automatic mom, and you
So you want to be
you damn
fair.
near have to be like, show that she's a crackhead, right, to be able to get the child from her, instead of you being able to say, the court saying, oh, you're willing to keep the kid instead of paying $1,500 a month. Okay, dads, you have primary, like you're going to be the primary focus, and mom has to wrestle the kid from dad at that point, instead of us having to
So,
wrestle him
so
from the
you
mom.
basically you wanted to be fair.
Essentially,
It
I
really
think
should be
so.
situational. It
I
should be
think.
situational.
Yeah, I don't. Even if it's not pure total custody, I think joint custody should be more prevalent.
That a lot of times they
Well, I'm
have
like
joint
50.
custody, but primary custody, like primary person still gets like child support from the other person, even in joint custody situations. So
Not 50-50. If it's 50,
if it's 50-50, they might not.
That's what I'm
They
saying. That's
still
what I'm
might.
saying.
Just
If
depends.
it's
Even in a 50-50 situation, they might
you
end
you
up with
you
child
stay in
support.
a 2-bedroom apartment, I got a 5-bedroom house. This week they got a 5-bedroom house. Next week they stay in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, because I shouldn't have to get you a 3-bedroom house now to make it fair, because they're with me just as much as they're with you, right?
But the courts don't look at
But
it
once
that
again,
way.
the
They look at
fair. Want to go
they
back
look
to
at
the
income, and
what
they
about
say,
go back to the fair? The
yeah,
child is, you know what? I have to do my part to make sure that they're okay as an adult, not as a father, but as an adult. I have to do my part to make sure they're okay. And therefore, it's only fair that you do your part to make sure they're okay.
I get that, but do we talk about? I mean, not just the norms, but say you talk about the 5-bedroom versus the 2-bedroom. What about the 5-bedroom in the nice part of the area, and then the mom has a 1-bedroom apartment, rat infested on Section 8, and so you're literally saying that you're okay with that kid splitting and going 2 weeks in this nice house, and then going back to the PJs for 2 weeks, just because you don't want him paying child support. I don't, and so
even
that's usually the times that the court's like, no, you're still going to pay child support, right?
even well, even without that extreme example, I don't think I like 50-50. I don't like 50.
We never like 50-50. Nobody likes 50-50, even though it's fair, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fair.
Help me
To the
understand.
kid.
Yeah, to the kids.
Yeah,
So,
I agree, and
That's
that's
too
what I
much.
mean. Like,
but
just in that,
it
yeah.
it's
Like I have a good friend. I have a really good friend. Like he head coaches with me in soccer and everything, and he does that. His kids are 1 week with the mom, 1 week with the dad, but they literally stay in the same school district. The kids don't. There's not a whole shuttle in. Hey, I got to add 45 minutes to my kid's day on the front end and back end every day because dad stays across town, and he got to get the kids. Even though we're doing 50-50, he got to get the kids to school and everything like that. Like, I agree, but I don't think it's fair just to say, oh, automatic 50-50, no child support, and I really don't like the kids jumping back and forth. But it sometimes can work, right? If we're still there, we're 5 minutes from each other, and you got them this week, that's your week, yada yada yada. I think it can work, and so every situation is its own thing. It should be looked at there. My whole thing is just that if the dad is going to be paying the primary piece of that child support, I feel like they just need a fair shake in custody battles.
I get it morally. I get it. I just think we're not asking whoever the parent with a lower income, because women are making, especially black men, women are making a lot of money these days. It's a lot of women making good money, black women especially. We're okay with the other person doing the bare minimum, and that other person having to go above and beyond outside of their means, right, to do more, right? Like, so now the 5 bedroom, and I got to pay another $1,500. Like, it's at what point are you saying, okay, this other person needs to do more? Like,
To the 1,500. I mean, that's my thing is if we that how the courts think about child support is if you two were together, that combined income would be supporting that child, right? And so as y'all separate, they look at it as combined income, whatever the percentage was. So the 5 bedroom house person probably makes a lot more. And so they're saying, based on that, here's what the child should be like living off of. You pay that to the person that's keeping the child, or like make it they separate that. And so a lot of times if it's 50-50 or shared custody, it's not going to be your normal 1,500. That person 50 and they go to the PJs, they might be paying the chick in the PJs or the guy in the PJs, right? They might be paying him $400, $500, because they're like, hey, y'all are sharing this, but when he's over there, they still need a little bit more from income wise, and so they'll kind of make that change there. So I agree with that. I really think that's fine to do that. I'm just talking about when I'm there and I'm fighting for custody, and I'm like, I want the child. It shouldn't be an automatic
I
mom
agree
gets
with
the
that.
child and then dad has to pull it. That's my whole thing. It's like he should be okay. Mom, tell me why you should have the child. Dad has all this money. They're going to be living in a 5 bedroom house. They're going to a nicer neighborhood or a nicer school system, right? Like they're going to have health care instead of being on Medicaid. And so, mom, tell me why we should send this child with you versus putting it
I
with
get
the
that. And I
father.
think my challenge with that is we almost want the life for both parties to stop after the divorce or after child support, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
now it limits what that other person can do as they move on with their life. They might get married young. Might want to have more kids. But now there's this, and I have this, I'm taking on just as much of this rearing of this child as you are. I'm moving on with my life as far as from the spouse, right? Not from the kid. Because once again, I have the kid just as much as you do, right? But now it affects everything else. It affects your other kids, it affects all these other things. Like you can't, your life is limited because of this. If you do better, if the other chick is better for you and you become more successful through that person, right? Now, because wife one or baby mama one didn't help you, might not have help you got there, right? It's the same reason women give alimony. Well, you ain't shoot no basketballs, but she helped make him who he is. But now the other person, other spouse, could be a woman, because I know a lot of women out there I know women paying child support. So don't get it twisted. Now this other person gets to move on with their life, and you're supporting, that, and trying to support your life and your child and the future life. Like, I don't know what the answer is. I just think we need to reevaluate some of these outdated, just, like you said, starting when you said, like, well, the mother is always surprised. Not always, but it takes a lot for the father to become the primary parent. Like, the mother damn near
Mm-hmm.
has to be a crackhead.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, do we discourage? I want to discourage.
And I'll even say one better. I've seen crackheads get the child over the dad.
That's fair. And that's my only thing. I just want to. I guess I'm one of those people where I feel like there's gonna be some tough times, but if we want to get to a point where we are discouraging certain behaviors, discouraging certain things, it's going to make some people uncomfortable. It's going to make. I don't think there's a easy transition for that, right? It's, hey, the child support thing, like, hey, he can waive his, if he waives his parental rights and all this stuff after he, signed a written document that he asked you to not have this baby and you decided to keep this baby, here's the max you can get in child support. No matter from this point on, it might increase with inflation. It goes up 3% every year. but will it discourage certain behaviors? And not everybody's doing. I'm not trying to demonize any particular women, any group of women, but will it make people think about these things that have a lot of kids who are doing this and doing that? Like, will it discourage it, knowing that your child support is going to be limited? But we're also in a world where first of all, you got to give women an option. Do they want to keep kids? So now this makes it even, it's going to even get even worse right now, because they can't even make the decision if they wanted to.
Right.
And so now
Certain states.
so disregard my
Make
argument
choices.
because they didn't took that away from you women. So I forget that we're living in this world we live in today. But I just think if we start looking at, I don't know what to call it, privilege. I want to just look at the double standards, and we start wanting to get to fairness. We have to evaluate the double standards, and nobody really wants to evaluate. People want to evaluate the double standards that go against them, but not the ones that work in their favor, men included, right? Men
Yeah.
included, right? We want to be,
Nobody wants to lose their privilege.
you know.
That's just what it is.
And my thing is, I like to shake it up. And it's like we got to start over. And it's not survival of the fittest, but it's more so like, hey, if we could take, part of me always want to say, if we can take the world and rebuild it, knowing the things we know now, like how like the interactions go, the double standards, like, but that's the way it's always been. But we can restart it. Would you make these changes? And so those are things I always look at. Like, it doesn't always have to be that way. He doesn't always have to pay for the date. It's take the taboo off of 50-50 or whatever, whatever it is, take those things away. Take the man has to be the leader of the household away. Like, take those things, and the most qualified person, or we're teams, so we figure out who's stronger in this, and we work together, and yada yada yada. If we can rebuild and reshape society, what changes we make? And I always look at pushing that narrative and seeing if, hey, maybe we got it wrong. And every change had to start somewhere. Like, there had to be somebody like, you know what? Maybe keeping these niggas working for free is not the right thing. It had to start somewhere,
We'll be able to rebuild after the MAGA apocalypse. So,
No.
we
No.
got
Well, you won't be around, sir. But it's about that time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and
only things I got, man, is Trump has inserted himself in the University of Alabama commencement activities. At first, he announced that he was going to actually deliver the commencement address. UA was like, oh, that's news to us. So actually, UA didn't invite Trump. I just want everybody to understand that. I got my Alabama shirt on today. Not just so happened to have that on, but he did not. UA did not invite Trump to the commencement. What happened is Trump just said, I'm coming. And so what they did is, instead of letting him go to the actual commencement, they created a basically like Trump rally, or, like speech or whatever. And they're going to invite graduates who want to come to it. So I'm sure that'll be really, really mayonnaise and full of, there'll be some sprinkles of pepper in there, I'm sure, just so people can say they went and heard the Trump or heard the president. But it's going to be really, really white, but it is not the actual commencement. So I wanted to throw that out there. And then the only other thing is student loans out there. So we didn't mention that people who their loans are in default, you guys have to get ready, because now they're going to push those into collections. And so if you have student loans in default, get ready. You will have collection companies. And again, we talk about privatizing. This is also somebody out there can make a profit, because what'll happen is that's how collection companies make their money. They buy the collection at 50 cent, 60 cent on the dollar, and then they try to collect a little bit more than that so they can make a profit on it. So all they're doing is shifting that from actually the US government collecting to actually letting some collection companies collect. So it sucks, but again, it's the grift. The grift is on, and Trump is enriching himself on that. So, in Vietnam, that Vietnam came out and said that they were okay with building a multi-million-dollar Trump resort in Vietnam so that they can get some tax relief from the tariffs. So yeah, there's that. I just throw that out there too. Yeah. That's all I got, man.
At the top of the show, I spoke about what I liked about the draft and seeing the fathers. Also, so I got to call myself out. I don't know, a good 8 years ago, I was walking around saying the NFL has a good 25 more years before it's like no longer the top league. And for a while, there was some hiccups. You know, you had the Colin Kaepernick thing, and you had the concussion thing, where you had a lot of parents saying, "I'm not going to let my child play football." Man, maybe it won't be the top sport one day, but I can no longer say that. You got over 150,000 people showing up for the draft. It's crazy. I think last year the draft outrated NBA playoff games. That's how big the NFL is, man. So that's crazy. Ferg's favorite girl, Candace Owens, she is no longer on
Trump train.
the Trump train.
Yep.
She does not like. She said he's disguising fighting DEI when he's really just squashing free speech. And she was like, I don't see how so many people are going along with this. Everybody should be rooting for Harvard. In this case, if you don't know, Harvard sued the Trump administration because he threatened to withhold funds because of protests and stuff that they allow, and that they won't abide by his rules that he put in place for them. So yeah, she's off that train, and she was like, this is how we lose democracies and things like that. So no longer a Trump fan for now. Every once in a while, I feel like they come out like this, and then he ropes them back in. And before I get to my last point, I do want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, they drafted a young man by the name of Derek Harmon, and he rushes to the hospital to let his mom know that he was drafted. And not long after that, she passed away. So just want to send some thoughts and prayers to him and the roller coaster.
She's the one that had cancer?
That he must be on. I think so. Tiffany Sane.
I think so. Okay, yeah. I saw they did a story on her and him during the draft, right?
Yeah. So on the bright side, he was able to at least give her that news. But, losing your mom, we've all had close losses, so we know what it's like to lose somebody. So thoughts and prayers to that young man, and I just definitely hope he's surrounded by great people right now. But my last point is there is a first lieutenant in the Army who got caught selling LSD, and his argument is that his religion allows him to sell this LSD. So that is his argument in court, and he has his lawyers fighting that as well. Young man is Kyle Norton Reister, and he is a Black Hawk pilot, and he said he felt compelled to dispense to other people, and that his religion compels him to sell LSD. He's made over $122,000 selling this. So good luck with that defense. I'm interested to see if it works. Stranger things have happened, but I'm definitely interested to see how that turns out.
Well, I'm gonna end mine on I guess a brighter note. I think I've been the person that's been tracking as much as we talked about politics and what this guy they call the president is doing. I always remind us how far in we are, because it seems like we're 2-3 years in. But just want to let everybody know we made it past the first 90 days. Pat yourselves on the back. The world hasn't ended. As far as we know, this might still be a simulation. Who knows? But just so you know, you can mark it on your calendar. We are 184 weeks, 4 days, 5 hours, 10 minutes, and 9, 8, 7 seconds until the next presidential election. So just, mark that on your calendar. I know sometimes people didn't get out the vote, but if you put it on your calendar, I feel like if you make it a point, might be able to get out the vote. I'm not telling you to vote for. I'm just saying, remember, 184 weeks, 5 days, 4 hours, and 4 days, 5 hours, 9 minutes, and 39 seconds till the next presidential election. So, hey, yeah, just throwing it out there. Outside of that, thank you guys. Thanks to all our listeners. Thanks to all the supporters. It's been a great week to be alive. Talk to you guys next week. Three Brothers No Sense, favorite barbershop style podcast. 6 Rules of Podcast. Listen, like,
Contentville, what up?
Contentville, what up?
New Orleans, how did you not draft Shador?
That's a whole nother.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's.
Trump
They
even
just
was
picked
mad.
Tyler's show. They just picked Tyler's show.
Ooh.
Over. So that's now 3 quarterbacks chosen ahead of Shador.
God.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. 6 Rules of Podcast.
Maybe
Listen, like, share, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, listen again. Talk to you next week.